What's up, everyone? It's been a busy couple days, so sorry I got a little bit late with this YouTube bundle. A couple of you actually reached out to me to check if I was okay, which was pretty sweet. Aside from that, I did try and adjust the mic settings, so let me know if it's a little bit easier to hear. And let's start it off with Saquon Barkley. So Saquon Barkley's got a Monday game, so we haven't had a practice report yet. We talked before about how he had a groin strain. Saw it in that video image. It seemed mild, and he will have about a little over two and a half weeks to recover from it. That is the period of time that he could be able to recover from a mild groin strain. And I would expect to see him back at practice by Friday. If he's not back at practice at Friday, then we got an issue here. But I do project that he's got a good shot at playing Monday. Brock Bowers blew it up. I hope you slot him into the lineup like we talked about. Seems like he's having no lingering issues, and he's a tight end one, the tight end one the rest of the way. Brian Thomas Jr., he's got a high ankle sprain, I think, and then they ended up signing Jacoby Myers. The reasoning was pretty blunt. The coach said it's because he doesn't drop balls. And we have a bunch of wide receivers out in that Jags offense, which I'll touch on Travis Hunter next. But Brian Thomas Jr., I'm expecting to be out this week likely. We'll see what happens next week. Travis Hunter, he has this uncertain knee injury, but reports are positive that he should be back within after that IR period's done. So I would anticipate after those 4 weeks are up, he should be back if you want to hold him and you don't have anyone else holding your IR slot. Speaking of IR slots, Bucky Irving's still not in one, still not practicing. The coach made comments that he is able to run now. And people are like, oh, that's a positive. I'm like, no, that's not a positive because they said the foot injury is the more mild of the two injuries. So the fact that he's just getting over the foot injury does not bode well for the shoulder injury, in my opinion, which I think is a partial thickness supraspinatus tear. Amon Ra has an oblique strain that he's been playing through. He's had this in the past and he's managed to play through it with phenomenal results. So I wouldn't anticipate that this holds him out. Chris Godwin is still not practicing as well, and I've already said I don't think he'll be productive when he returns based on the ankle dislocation he suffered last season. That's usually a season plus recovery. So he should be good dynasty wise, but I wouldn't think that he is good for this season. Aside from that, AJ Brown had a hamstring injury. Says he should be good to go. We'll see kind of how the practice reports goes. I do think that he's got a 50% chance of playing. We've talked about hamstring strains. He is 30 years old, so we'll see kind of how he's able to practice. Jayden Daniels likely out for fantasy purposes, to be honest, but in regards to like football playoffs, I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs, but they do want to get their young quarterbacks from reps. So I do anticipate that he could return back in about 4 or 5 weeks, depending on recovery, and we'll see how that goes. Samaje Perine has a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a couple weeks. I think that's a big boost to Chase Brown, especially with Flacco firing on all cylinders. Man, Flacco went off. I hope he started him like we talked about. Aside from that, Joe Mixon, a lot of people have been asking about him again. He was on my do not draft list in the beginning of the season. I've been saying I don't expect him back all season. I don't change that opinion on him. It sounds like he has an aggravation, that midfoot sprain that he had years ago. Those are pretty big issues. It sounds like it was a non-football injury, and I don't expect to see him back. Brandon Aiyuk, once again, we got a report that they don't expect him to be activated off IR. Another guy who I thought, not really he's a do not draft target in my eyes. I do think he's fine if you don't have anyone else put in your IR because there is a chance he comes back, and with how banged up the 49ers are, he's a great wide receiver. So if he's out on the waivers and you have an IR slot, I would stash him. Aside from that, Kareem Hunt did really well. No lingering injury signs. I think that he's the guy, especially with Pacheco probably out for a couple weeks with that MCL sprain. Ricky Pearsall also still not practicing. Jennings still didn't get traded, and he's not going to get traded. So like I talked about before, Pearsall's not practicing. He'll be rusty. A lot of mouths to feed in that 49ers offense. Another guy that if you have no one else in that IR slot, he's fine to put in there, but that's about it. Cooper Kupp, he's an older wide receiver. He had a hamstring injury. I don't expect to see him this week. He already hasn't practiced yesterday. He'll be out. Kittle didn't have a great game, but he's producing and he's going to be a good tight end one overall. Don't have any injury concerns for him. Brock Purdy, they said that he's not quite close to returning. He's been practicing every week. I still think he's out this week. Maybe he's got a shot at coming back week 11. Omarion Hampton, I've talked about before how I think he's got a fibula fracture, and I think that he's going to be pretty deconditioned in that leg on return, and I don't think he'll be that great of a fantasy starter if you're expecting like a high-end RB2 or something like that. I'm not sure if he'll be that, and they said that the earliest he can come back is week 13. So that doesn't mean he's back week 13. That means the earliest he'll come back is week 13. So not really a priority hold for me. Not like you should drop him, but I mean, I'd be trying to shop him around and stuff like that. All these projections, by the way, are not for dynasty purposes. I haven't really seen any player on the list I'm talking about that I would be disregarding or fading for dynasty purposes based on their injuries. Jayden Reed is back watching practice. I do think he's back week 11, week 12. And I think that he's someone who would produce like flex numbers, nothing more than that. Someone asked me the better hold between Watson and Reed, and I think it's Watson for sure. DeAndre Swift is actually practicing. I was pretty surprised that he was playing through a groin injury. He ended up being held out. I thought that he would be likely to sit this week. It sounds like he's more likely to play, but we do have to watch to see if he continues to practice today. If he practices today, then it's pretty much he's going to play this weekend. Sounds like he wants to make sure his job is secure from Mananganai, who was a great pickup last week. Quinshon Judkins is also practicing. I expect him to be playing this week through that AC joint sprain, and he's a smash start with that matchup he has. Kyler Murray is out for the foreseeable future. They said that Jacoby Brissett would be the starter even if he's healthy, but we talked about before how Kyler Murray had a Lisfranc injury, and honestly, that even without a fracture, that's usually like a 6-7 week absence. So I don't understand why they didn't put him on IR in the first place. Josh Jacobs is playing through a calf injury, and he's been doing pretty well. I wouldn't fade him at all this week. Trey Benson has a good shot at not returning back this week, but I think next week is a good shot for him to return back for that meniscectomy. And out of those three, Hampton, Bucky, and Benson, I would be thinking that Benson is honestly the best hold and the most reliable producer to be expected back. Puka Nacua had a rib injury, and he should be able to play through it. He's already voiced his positive feedback, and I do think that he should be playing this week. Bruised ribs are something that you can play through. Even if it's one fractured rib, you can play through it. Terry McLaurin aggravated that quad injury, and now he's expected to have multi-week absence. He was another guy that as soon as his injury came out, I was saying, man, just trade him, and it sounds like he's not really going to be viable this season, to be honest. Garrett Wilson is back at practice. I did think that they might hold him out a little bit longer just based on them kind of starting to restart, it seems like. But it seems like he will be playing this week. And, he's a guy who can play through any kind of quarterback issues. So I would be starting Garrett Wilson. Rhamondre Stevenson has turf toe. He didn't practice again this week. I would think that he doesn't play this week. Aaron Jones had a shoulder injury, and that wasn't super concerning, but then he popped up with a do not play for a toe injury. Once again, he's a veteran running back. They have a lot of rest days on Wednesday, so let's see how it turns out on Thursday. But if he does miss Thursday, then I would definitely be looking for alternates. Boutte released his MRI results on Twitch, I think, which is crazy. And he had a grade 1 hamstring. So not the worst case scenario, but I don't expect him to be playing this upcoming week. Justin Jefferson got knocked out for like a play, and then he took some pickle juice for cramps. Seems like it was just cramps. Don't think that there's any risk of him missing this upcoming week, even if he misses a vet day for practice. Brenton Strange, a lot of people have been asking about him. He had a quad injury, and he was placed on IR week 5. And then they said that he won't be back for at least 5 weeks. So I don't expect him to see him back this week either. He's a good tight end. Tight ends are hard to find. So if you don't have anyone else on your IR, yeah, you should stash him in there. He should be back by playoffs and should be able to produce at a decent level. And that's it. We blitzed through pretty quickly today. Hope you had a good time, and good luck for these Thursday night slates. Let's get. Oh, I forgot about James Cook. He also missed a practice with an ankle injury. They said that he was pretty sore from last week. Seems like it's a low ankle. I wouldn't be worried as of yet. He's a veteran running back. They can miss Wednesday practices. Let's see today, though, but overall, not red alert yet.